Hi, I'm Mark, and welcome to Book Ramble. This is not a review or even anything to do with a book as such, although it's about this, a comic, Judge Dredd. But it's not really about Judge Dredd, although it's to do with this. It's about these guys on the back. A few things to say about it. I love Judge Dredd. I think the actual comic says a lot about society, like anything. It's holding up a mirror, and we see the reflection of ourselves, even though it's set in the future. And this fascist dude is the eponymous hero. But it's also a document, a historical document. This came out in October 1987, and I remember what was being talked about it, but I think it was earlier, so I don't know if it came out, because this is monthly, and I don't know if this is when it came out and I remember it from this point, or this is a later reproduction of an earlier story. So in here you've got the typical alternate kind of characters, rogue trooper. You can tell it's very 80s because there's a woman in here that for some reason, whereas the rogue trooper is wearing all the normal gear, this one isn't. It's a different era, and that's what I want to talk about. It is a different era. I loved the story or the memory of it, but now I've reread it. It's not what I remember. If you're into history, and a lot of people who do booktube are into history, and we can't pass judgment, we can't look at the past with our modern eyes. It's said that, the past is a foreign country and they do foreign things there. We can't pass judgment because it doesn't suit us today. So we have to bear in mind that what is in here is seen as a cautionary fable, although this is a future shock kind of thing before we get to the main event. And then what is depicted here might be argued to be a means to raise awareness of an issue that was then becoming an issue in British society and worldwide, but also is nothing compared to the world that we know now. So it's about poking fun at people who are overweight. And I remember as a young man, I would have been, when this came out in 87, I was 23. Just coming out of the Navy, funnily enough. Transitioning out. And I think, I know that the humour back then was different to when I came to New Zealand. And my British sense of humour, which can be quite cruel, is really not the case now. I don't kind of care for a British humour because I've been in New Zealand for nearly 20 years. And I don't get the New Zealand sense of humour either, but I've certainly lost touch of the British sense of humour, which can be quite cutting, quite cruel, actually. So you've got to think, and this is another thing, by no means am I a prude. I'm not saying that, we shouldn't be doing this. This is just to highlight, as a thought, that what was done in the past might make some people uncomfortable if we read it now. So Tharg is like the editor of the comic, and it's talking about a guy who can't stop eating, and it ends up a bit like King Kong, where he eats so much, gets so big, he ends up going up a tall building and then he's shot down. So it's King Kong reimagined, but King Kong is a human. And he says right at the end, folk had no sympathy for Tim, that's the lad who couldn't stop eating, but cried, what shall we do with him? He blocks the street, it's plain to see, beside it isn't sanitary. So he's dead there on the sidewalk, having fallen down from above. Then up spoke Mr. Horace Bloggs of Four Bones Food for Healthy Dogs. He said, I sent for trucks and trains, we'll deal with Timmy's vast remains. And then it cuts to a dog eating food. We dare not show what hideous fate befell the shell of Timmy Tate, but happy pets in sated bliss still lick their chops and reminisce. But then it ends here. This bit here. So children, remember Timothy Tate and leave a little on your plate. So you get the feeling that they're trying to make a point here. What then happens is we go straight into Judge Dredd. And Judge Dredd is set in the future. And there's been a nuclear Armageddon. Big cities on the east coast of America have joined into one megacity. To keep control of the populace who don't do much, there have to be the justice system, judges. Outside the walls as mutants, food is rationed. So they have illicit underground eating contests. And as it's said here, this guy was so over hungry, he tried to eat a bedstead. Okay. Which is ridiculous, but it's also the language. Got ourselves a real porker here. And it's that kind of thing. Now, as I was reading through it, I remember the story vaguely, but obviously my ethics has changed. So we're talking about part of an underground thing where they win competitions by who could eat the most amount of food. And this guy, to make himself eat more or practice, he drinks too much of a liquid to enhance his appetite, and then he can't stop eating. And he ends up eating a carpet, a light, and then that bedstead that does him in. And it alerts the justice or the judges that there may be in the local area an underground movement to make money by making fat people, against really their better judgment, join in this underground eating competition. And the reason they know he's there because the body was dumped in some wastelands. So what we have is that we have this competition, which is really this bit here. So these people are so big, so extended in their stomachs here, that they have these belly wheels. And then you get this thing where they go into an illicit place, so there's these huge chutes that they put their mouths up to, and they're just literally gorging non-stop to see who will win. That's what it is. Now, in defense of the comic, it's highlighting something that's plainly ridiculous, but it's probably a warning that this is what could happen. The welcome Flab fans to the 27th Heavyweight Eating Championship of the world. Chow down time. But they are using and abusing people that they call fatties, and put in the scene where these people are in their blocks. Someone throws down some food, and then they all trundle out like wild animals on belly wheels to get the food. The charge of the heavy brigade. Requiem for the heavyweight. And some of the language is not pleasant also, although I would not pick that up when I was younger. The disdain that people have for a group of people who through nature cannot stop eating, and they're encouraged to eat just for the benefit of others. So it's quite a sad story. And the people who can't stop eating, they're not happy with it, and they know that they are being used, and to some extent possibly abused, by the equivalent of pimps. The fact this is in a children's book is quite interesting as well, because it's quite dark, and you're dealing with these guys here, massively overweight. And they're seen as superstars on the underground circuit. So I don't know whether it is whoever did it or came up with the idea is trying to warn people or make an underground criminal activity so ridiculous that it's about overweight people rather than saying drugs, which they probably wouldn't have shown for children. But when you link it to the one I've just shown you about, be careful, children, leave a little bit on your plate, you understand there's a message here. And it's not exactly subtle. So this guy is the pimp who's literally dropping down a thing into this guy. It's called Stodgeman, to make him eat more. And then you can see, open wider, jaws of the tiger, and he's stuffing down food. It's just ridiculous. I'm not sure it would be printed today. I'm not sure we'd want to read it. Times have changed. And again, this is not a review, this is not passing judgment. It's just an interesting thing that in my youth, we would have seen this as a comedic, comic kind of thing. But I wonder what we would think now. Very, very interesting in terms of looking at it as a historical piece of how society, for children, was showing this kind of stuff. And of course, Arnie dies. He eats too much. And the judges come in and they arrest people. And it's all based on this guy. He won because he ate a ton of food. For Charlie Bruno, that was his name, it was the dream of a lifetime. He's the guy, he's the pimp. But for Arnold Stodgeman, heavyweight champion of the world, there would be no hero's funeral, no ticker tape send-off. And a judge is asking Dredd here, what do we do with the stiff, Dredd? And Dredd says, better call Recyc. Tell them to hold the conveyors. They've got a day's overtime coming in. So, make of that what you will. And understand that after that, it goes to another thing. The lethal laziness of Tubelia Tome, I think it is. Is that the name? Or is it Lobelia Loam? I didn't read this one because it was obvious, again, poking fun at overweight people. I don't know what to make of it. I just thought I'd talk about it. It's there. It's in the public domain. I'm not going to pass judgment on it. It's of its time and place. And there's a lot to learn from it. But there you go. 2000 AD. Made me slightly uncomfortable, but I still love Dredd. Ta-ta for now.